Ikigai means the purpose of life. Now, a book that has the title as Ikigai would be expected to talk on purpose of life, how to find the purpose of life and things like that. And it may be expected to help us in trying to find a purpose of life, but that is unfortunately not the case with this book, right? Now, this book that has become very famous talks more on how to live longer than it talks on how to find purpose in life, right? And this is not the only thing. This book is super confused, and sometimes it talks about the one topic, sometimes it talks about the other topic, and in the end it just messes everything up and it achieves nothing basically. It fails miserably in exploring both these topics, and it kind of does a very skinny dipping in both of these topics. And the way these topics are written, it's very incoherent. It's not like one topic leads to another. It's just that it's some random shit, it feels like. So when I finished the book last year, I was like, what the fuck was that, man? It was a terrible book, right? It was a super confused, incoherent and very, very shallow book, right? Without any scientific basis. So it talks a lot about longevity of life, but, the basis of those writings is very shallow, and a lot of the claims made by the author are not backed by any science, right? So I was like, what the fuck? And I expected people to pour hate on this book because it was such a big waste of time. So I jumped on YouTube and I tried to search about this book, and this is what people have to say.
So I strongly suggest you to go for this book.
It's not trying too hard to be too philosophical or to be too preachy.
This book is worth reading. Just spend some time, go through this book.
This book is definitely going to inspire you in bits and pieces.
I was honestly shocked that people were recommending this book left, right and center. In fact, it had a cult-like following and people were discussing the silly diagrams it had on its cover, right? What it feels like is that somebody recommended it to someone and someone pretended to like it, probably just to look cool, and then a suite of other people followed, right? So that's how I think it became popular, because the book is horrendous. Now, if you've read this book and you've loved this, please bear with me before you try and do this to me. And if you've read this book, right, and you're like, what the F, and you are just not able to wrap your head around what was just said in the book, well then welcome to the club. So let's begin on exploring this book, right, and let's begin to explore the silliness and the shallowness in this book. Okay. So I think that the best place to start discussing this book is the prologue, wherein the two authors meet, right? And they are talking about psychology. Then suddenly the word Ikigai pops up. Ikigai means the purpose of life. So far, so good. Then comes a very horrendous turn wherein they suddenly conclude that Ikigai, meaning the happiness of always being busy, seems to be one way of explaining the exceptional longevity of the Japanese people. Okay. Now, they make a big claim. They say that Ikigai, right, is responsible for the extreme longevity of Japanese people. Is this claim backed by any scientific research? You turn to the notes section of the book and you will find that there's none. It's just a random statement made by the authors. Then in the next paragraph, they say that those who study inhabitants who live longer than other people than anywhere else, the authors are saying that other than the most common things like exercise, a good diet, etc., Ikigai is the reason that they live so longer. Right, so even for the non-Japanese people, they have included the non-Japanese people, and they have said that their Ikigai, or their purpose of living, is the reason that they live longer. So they basically say that finding purpose is as important as a good diet, exercise, and leading a non-stressful life, etc. And mind you, again, without any scientific research. Then the authors finally conclude what is going to be the purpose of this book. Number one, how to find our Ikigai. Number two, how to live a long life. So these two topics are explored in the book. Now my thing is, if the title of the book is Ikigai, meaning the purpose of life, and you talk about purpose of life all throughout, right, then why in this world are you exploring longevity, right? I understand as per your non-scientific claims, Ikigai may be responsible for the extreme longevity of some people. However, if the book is titled Ikigai, then why the hell are you exploring other topics? This is something beyond my, brain. Maybe they didn't know how to fill the pages, right? Maybe the pages were filled pretty quickly, hence they thought, okay, now that we are exploring Ikigai, let's also explore the topic longevity. Then probably they should not have kept the title as Ikigai. Anyhow, let's finally start. Now the book finally starts. Now, lack of deep research is not the only reason that this book sucks. The way the chapters are structured is also quite nonsensical, wherein topics change randomly without any sense of structure to them. And you don't have to venture too deep to find what I'm saying. Right? You can find this incoherence in the first chapter itself, which is titled Ikigai, the art of staying young while growing old. And if you've been paying attention, something would hit you immediately. Just in the preceding few pages, they've made a claim that Ikigai is the happiness of always being busy. Now they're saying that Ikigai is the art of staying young while growing old. I mean, this is just complete nonsensical, so to say. Then again, after some time, a third meaning of the term Ikigai will come. That is raison d'être. That is the reason for your existence. So now within very few pages, they have given three meanings of Ikigai. Number one, the art of staying young while growing old. Number two, the happiness in always being busy. And number three, raison d'être. That is the reason for existence. Now the meaning of these three terms is quite distinct, right? They do not mean the same. Anyhow, let's move ahead. Now just when you would be thinking that the confusion is about to be over, right? The topic moves from Ikigai, that is your raison d'être or your reason for existence. Right. So in one topic, the book is discussing in the same chapter about Ikigai, the meaning of Ikigai. And suddenly, out of nowhere, it moves to the blue zone. That is the places wherein people live exceptionally longer. Right. And then it suddenly moves from blue zones to the diet and lifestyle of centenarians, Japanese. That is Japanese who have lived more than 100 years. Right. And they have shared things like keep your tummy 80% full, the importance of a community in your life, etc., etc. Right. Now this useless and mindless meandering around different ideas is not there in the first chapter itself. It is there in almost every chapter in follows, and it is there in the entire structure of the book. Also, the topics that are discussed are just not good, right? They are, let's just say, very shallow. Now let's move from the first to the second chapter, wherein the idea of Ikigai is completely dished and we focus on topics like an active mind, active body, negative effect of stress, negative effect of idle sitting, adequate sleep, stoicism, all basic things related to longevity, right? So we don't know what happened to Ikigai. We're talking on these topics. And we are talking on these topics in a very shallow manner. We just touch every single topic, maybe a paragraph or two, and that's about it. Now things get funny in the next chapter, wherein the author suddenly moves from secrets to longevity to again Ikigai, and then they discuss logotherapy. They say that it is sort of a psychological tool that is used by some psychologists and which may help you in allegedly finding your purpose, that is your Ikigai. However, as with the rest of the book, this chapter is again very shallow and it just gives 5 points where it is briefly touched how a therapist may work with you to find your purpose. Right? Again, no help in finding Ikigai. And if you see the overall structure of the book is just not making any sense. Now the next chapter tells on the topic of flow. Now this is a concept that is borrowed from the book of the same name, and it basically says that find flow in activities, and wherein you find a lot of activities wherein you find flow, this is your Ikigai. Complete bullshit. Now just when we thought, we are moving closer to our discussion of finding Ikigai or purpose, the book makes an abrupt halt from the concept of finding purpose, and again it jumps from focusing on finding Ikigai to focusing on longevity in a very non-scientific and shallow manner. First, there are secret of centenarians. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing this right. Wherein a few people who've scored a century have been interviewed for their secrets. And that's about it. Right? I'm honestly left wondering whatever happened to Ikigai. Right? And then there's some basic bullshit on how to live longer, just some blabbering without any substance, Like, let's say two friends are sitting and they're just talking, giving advice to each other without any substance. That's what happens. Again, it covers a very few basic things in a very shallow manner. Not to worry, developing good habits, nurturing friendship, etc. I mean, this shit is too basic and it does not help you in finding the title of this book, that is Ikigai. Now, next chapter, the book takes a crazy turn on and focuses on eating habits, right? In 12 pages, the eating habits are discussed, okay? And the recommendations are again too shallow and too generic in nature. Now, in the next chapter, the book takes a crazy turn, okay? And it talks about a few basic exercises. I mean, it has gone as far as drawing sketches on a few exercises. And at this point, I was totally lost. I mean, firstly, make it clear what you want to focus on. Do you want to focus on Ikigai, that is finding purpose, or you want to focus on living longer, because it is not able to do either, right? I mean, I have no idea what they're trying to say. Next, just when you thought, okay, this book is probably about health, they take another U-turn from health-related topics and talk about resilience in life, right? That is living in the present and not worrying at all, okay? And then they talk about some other basic stuff. Now, this topic of resilience is borrowed from the book Anti-Fragile. Again, no clear linking to Ikigai, and this time no clear linking to how it may help in longevity. I mean, it's complete blabbering. It's like two friends are sitting with each other. They are talking bullshit to each other, right? They are just sharing some generic advice and that's about it. And in the end, and that's it. That is the end of the book. In the end, the book urges everyone to find their ikigai without telling them how to do this, right? Now, there are two problems. Number one, they're not just focusing on ikigai. They're focusing on longevity also. So what happened to longevity? Second, bro, you have not told me how to. Okay. I mean, just read this book from this perspective and you'll probably try and see what I'm trying to say. But that's what it is. Okay. Now let's conclude this video by summarizing what all is wrong with this book. Number one, every topic is covered in a very, very shallow manner. Number two, if ikigai is about purpose, then what the F are so many topics on hell doing in this book? I mean, even if your ikigai, which the author fails to tell us how to find, helps us live longer, again a random statement made by author and not something backed by science really, then what the hell are health related topics doing here? If ikigai is the reason that we can live longer, then why have you covered these health related topics in the first place? Are we talking about finding purpose or are we talking about longevity? Next thing is there is no scientific backing. Okay, if you see the notes, you'll be surprised to find that there's a lack of scientific evidence in a lot of statements made by the author. Now, again, this is the problem with the entire book. There is no cohesion. It's okay that you've covered two topics about finding purpose and longevity in a book that should ideally be only about finding purpose. It's okay, right? But again, the way the chapters are structured is very non-cohesive, right? We jump from one topic to another topic, without any substantial information of any at the author's whims. I mean, in the end, this book leaves you confused, right? So this was my take on this book. Right? What do you think about this book? Do let me know. I honestly feel it's a very, very bad book. It's an overhyped book and probably not worth anybody's attention or time, right? There are books that should ideally have been one chapters. I mean, the entire book could just have been a blog post or a chapter and other chapters are just like fillers, right? Even those type of books, they contain some good ideas. But this book fails to do even that. I mean, the topics are discussed in such a shallow manner that they just don't make any sense, right? So that's about it from this video. I'll take your leave. I'll see you again in the next video. Till then, bye-bye, take care and have a great day ahead.